गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरु साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः. We are in Amrut Anubhav, chapter 5, Satchidananda Padatraya Vivarna, and 33rd verse. Having transcended the dualism, pairs of opposites, and rejecting the duality of the qualification and the qualified, pure non-dual bliss alone prevails. This is what we are looking at last week, and we are looking at Ananda is not an experience, it is because of Ananda that experience is possible. Bliss is the absence of knower known difference. Bliss is when the knower Chit and the known Sat stop qualifying each other. This absence of mutual limitation is Ananda freedom. So today in meditation we talked about stop using a reference. So be referenceless. So here, where does individuality precipitate? Where the consciousness refers to existence as separate from itself. That's when individuality comes. But when consciousness accepts without a thought of its continuous existence, there you are, nothing more to be done. So where is this referencing going on? This is going on in your mind, because the subject is qualifying himself with reference to the object. Object doesn't have a status of validity without the subject. So both are coming together. But who are you who knows both of them? Who knows the aham vritti also and the idam vritti also? And this, when we begin the who am I inquiry, or if you are thinking of yourself again and again, aham satchidanandoham, aham satchidanandoham, it is still reference. It is still with reference, because the I and the Satchid Ananda are still separate by way of thought. Where they become one, where the aham and Satchidananda they become one, then you have gone beyond the referencing. So subject's limitation is the object, object's limitation is the subject. When consciousness accepts the limitation of existence as a valid, that's when the duality begins. Conditioning is dependence, and all dependence is misery. So subject is aham is dependent on idam. Idam, though it's inert, it has to be dependent on aham. But aham is dependent on idam. So are you dependent on your mind? Oh my God, so if I'm not dependent on my mind, then I'll be lunatic. Welcome to the club. Welcome to the club then. It requires great courage to accept that you are not the mind, that you are other than the mind, that the mind, body, the whole creation is only a superimposition on the one conscious principle that I am. But because of from childhood we have never purified our mind, we have never made our focus has always been on achievement something in this world, profession, job, house, marriage, children, duty, travel, wealth, possessions. It's always been extroverted pursuit, and that's where we have been focused, we have been single pointed. But we have never trained ourselves to be focused or come to a disposition that all this that I am pursuing in life, it's the self alone. See? So that was our Gurukul system. Conditioning is dependence, and all dependence is misery. So once we accept, once we come to this, not by reading, not by merely listening, because we have said this many times before, but this conclusion has to come in you while listening, that I am an independent entity, independent principle. There is nothing like me, not as body, not as emotions, not as the vasanas, not as a personality. No, I, in my essence, I am unique. I am one. There is nothing like me because I am incomparable, because there is no reference. I am all inclusive. So how can you compare with me to anyone and say that I am unique? No, I am all that there is. But with that comes responsibility. Not for the self. To move in that direction, and that responsibility is unconditional love towards one and all. That is the disposition of the Lord. See? So even though Jnaneshwar Maharaj is talking such deep, taking such deep topics of saying that there is nothing other than the self, but in and through the entire text of Amrit Anubhav also, his devotion towards his Guru Maharaj, that doesn't become less. So to keep ourselves, keep the mind sane, that it is for the mind. To keep the mind sane, some altar of reverence is required. So either Guru Maharaj or it is the Lord. Why? That Lord is the Nimitta Upadan Karan of the entire world or entire creation. He is the creator and the material out of which the whole creation is made. Because if I say I am the one, then ego will come, arrogance will come. So how do I remain humble? How do I maintain the humility? How do I maintain the non-ownership? Because when I open my eyes, oh, I am everywhere, is it? No. Because when you are reading, it seems that way. So for that, our love, devotion, surrender to the altar of worship, whatever it is, that must continue side by side. Otherwise, without that surrender, this type of teaching can lead you to Vedanta, can lead you to, they call it Shushka Vedanta, dry knowledge. Dry knowledge is where there is no feeling, there is no emotion, there is no love. Vedanta should not lead to dryness. It should be soaked with love. It should be soaked with acceptance. It should be soaked with oneness. And that must express in our daily life. So conditioning is dependence, and all dependence is misery. Now I don't have to talk much about the second part. Dependence is misery. You can work it out for yourself. Who is miserable? Wife is miserable because of husband. Husband is miserable because of wife. Child is miserable because of parents. Parents are miserable because of children. So where are these? The wife who is miserable with reference, what was her reference? Husband was the reference, wife is miserable. Is she real or woman is real? The daughter is miserable with reference to parents. Is the daughter real or woman is real? The mother is miserable with reference to children. Is mother real or the woman real? So who is miserable? All these fictitious, imaginary roles, entities, hoods, whatever you may call them, who are popping up with reference to something or someone, they are the miserable ones. So is there misery? Then no. Because the ones who are miserable themselves are ghosts. So how can there be misery? There cannot be any misery. There cannot be any joy also. Yet this we experience, isn't it? So continuously. So if you want to get out of this cyclical, or here as he's saying in this verse, if you want to come out of this duality, come to recognize that you are the continuous conscious existing one. Not with reference to something or someone, but you yourself. So all dependence is misery. And this is how our system also, brahmacharya, grahastha, vanaprastha and sannyas. So once you come to grahastha and once your children have grown up, studies are over, now you practice vanaprastha. What is that? Becoming independent. Do not depend on wife, do not depend on husband, do not depend on children, do not depend on anyone. Start. For that, then you have to, oh, it's so difficult, we never try. Now begin. If that is our goal, is to self-realize, to abide in the self, then this is an unavoidable disposition that you have to bring about. Vanaprastha. Vanaprastha is where it's not going into forest. You can put a board of forest outside your door and remain inside the room. But be independent. You want to get a glass of water, go pick up yourself. You want tea, go and make it yourself. You want a biscuit, go and make yourself. If someone says, I will do it, no, I'll do it. But if they insist, okay, do it. But no dependence. That feeling is not there. It is my wife, it is my husband, and they have to do this for me. I make the morning tea, you make the evening tea. No. Where's the love here then? Either you make sacrifice or be totally, but no, the relationships should start melting away. That is vanaprastha. We take, in relationship, we take the other for granted. The subject takes object for granted. That is why the ego is there, no? And we are trying to dissolve. We are trying to, what is scriptural study or what is sadhana? To reiterate to this I that, hey, I, you are independent, you are not dependent on the object. Then the question will appear, then who am I if I am not dependent on the object? Then your inquiry will begin. And that our Sanatana Dharma, the Sanatan Dharmic way of life, it incorporates within the system that after your children are grown up, we must start living independently, not divorce, live in the same house, different room, not the same bed. So, then what's the point of living? We got married for 7 lives. That was for when you got married. Now you are exposed to Vedanta. So your reality is different now. Forget about 7 lives. There is no next birth also. See? So where's the 7 lives? So, 7 जन्मों का साथ है. Forget it. 7 जन्मों का साथ है, ऐसे ले सकते हो. That as you are going through the 7 chakras, your partner is there to support you. 7 जन्मों का साथ है. To grow, to help you grow to your maximum, the Sahasrar. Then you take it as that. 7 days are 7 lives that you are there to support for 7 lives without stopping the spiritual growth in the other. And how can you stop? How do you not stop the spiritual growth of the other? By not depending on that, giving them enough freedom to explore their self. Because every time you demand, every time you expect, they are not able to explore. Because you want your tea at 3 o'clock, you want your dinner at 9 o'clock or whatever. I'm just making light of it. But understand, the point is, spirituality, self-realization is a recognition of the fact that I is not aham is not dependent on idam. The moment this happens, aham is not dependent on idam, aham not dependent on idam. What will happen? Witnessing will begin. And after a certain period of time, by grace of God, when this fellow, even though he is independent of this, it's a very fine understanding, but he continues contemplation rather than going into samadhi. Then who am I? Then I am the continuous one. I'm not the one with reference to these. I'm not the witness who is witnessing and not disturbed by these. This phenomena is happening in the mind. This fellow is beyond the mind. Both are one hand only. Both are consciousness. Mind is also consciousness, self is also consciousness. But consciousness with thoughts is called mind. Where and what is mind? Where there is aham and where there is idam. Aham identified with idam is individuality. Aham disidentified with idam is called witnessing. And aham without a thought, absorbed, without any reference, without thinking of itself as an object, is the Gyan Mudra. See? This is in a nutshell the entire journey. Now practice. And once you come to this Vanaprastha stage, the next stage is sannyas, where you have renounced everything. But you are still living. You are still dynamically in the world. But you are renounced. You are living with an indifference. renunciation of all references, renunciation of all idam, renunciation. And we want to, what will lead that to? It will lead to addressing the aham with a thought. So even that thought aspect of the idam, aham also has to be that reference also has to go, but that goes by itself, you can't make it go. Grace. So wherever your acumen, your understanding, your thinking, your uh, uh, contemplation can work, you work. And this is the way, this is the direction in which our life must go. From dependence to independence. You are born dependent, then in our life have we become independent? Leaving our parents and buying our house is not independence. You just replaced one thing with the other. You just replaced one thing with the other, and it is temporary. We have to truly experience independence. That is wisdom, that is maturity. Sarvam paravasham dukkham, and sukham is independent conscious existence. Atmavasham sukham. Whenever we are extroverted, when we are, vasham means under the clutches of, entangled in, obsessed by. Param, sarvam paravasham dukkham. When does dukkham come? Sarvam paravasham. When we are dictated by, addicted to contemplating on sarvam, the manyness, it will lead to dukkham. And when we allow ourselves to be dictated by, obsessed by, entangled by the Atma Tattva, the self, that is sukham. Atmavasham sukham. He who is in the clutches of the self, he can only experience sukh. He who is in the clutches of the manyness, there is only misery. Now you have heard this many times. Vivek Chudamani also it came. In Ishavasya Upanishad also it was there. In Kena Upanishad, the gods thought we have achieved everything till they were brought to their senses by the Yaksha Purusha. Same thing. But now think independently. Even though you are listening here right now, it has to click inside. That I cannot make it happen for you. You have to click it from inside. Or you have to contemplate in with such intensity that it clicks inside once and for all. I keep giving this example. Once you put the wedding ring on your husband's, or the husband put it on his wife, from that moment it clicked that we are husband and wife. Nothing happened, only an object was exchanged. Here the words are getting exchanged. They are coming. Husband also came. Wife also came. Your words are coming. And you are accepting. You also accepted the husband or the wife. You also accept. So what is that? That commitment to the partner. What is that commitment? It's not in words. It's somewhere deep in your heart. In spite of all the challenges and all the misunderstandings, yet that commitment to be together is there. So what is that commitment? What is that which allows you to accept and not go your own way and sacrifice for the other? Same way, when these words are coming, only once you need to understand, because in that physical acceptance, you accepted it immediately. So here, when the knowledge is coming towards to you through the years, the acceptance must be deep and abiding. And if it is deep and abiding, automatically your performance in the outside world will change. You will not depend, and you will not, even though we are moving in this world of manyness, our attention is continuously on the Atma, the spirit. Our attention is not on the manyness. Our desire is not for the manyness. Our desire is ever in the self. Now, bring this shift within you, which will lead to realization then. And this Sukham, when we are contemplating on the self, the joy, the fulfillment, the tranquility, the peace that ensues as a result, is not that which comes and goes. It remains in and through all experiences. Whereas the joy which comes from eating the food goes away after some time. See? The joy that you got from your children when they were young goes away once they start answering back. Story over. You have accepted, but now you are disturbed that I brought this kid up. He or she was so cute when they were small. Why? They were dependent on you. That's why they were cute. The moment they start showing their independence, then they are no more cute. It's an affrontation. Get out of all this. This is how the world is. World is joys and sorrows. But we are not after joys and sorrows. We want continuous joy. That is called bliss. And the only way to achieve or attain that or be that, allow yourself to be under the grips of the Atma Chintan, contemplation of the self. When you contemplate on the sleep, all misery goes away, all body aches go away, all pains go away, because the whole world goes away, including the body and the mind. Everything is under the grip of sleep. It's absorbed into the sleep. And what is everything is absorbed into the sleep? Everything is in the mind. Mind is absorbed into the sleep. Same way, when the mind contemplating on the self is absorbed, these are just words, is absorbed into the self, meaning all duality from the mind becomes null and void. That is, and you are conscious. You are not gone to sleep. You are awake. That is where this independence, that is the independent self that you are, that is discovered. Discovery of the independence in conscious existence is called Ananda. This I explained last week quite in detail, that Ananda is the expression, Ananda is the life, Ananda is the rays of the sun. Consciousness I am. Are you conscious right now or not? You are. Are you existing or not? You are. But existing as a body, that is not the conclusion we are looking at. Body is changing. Existing as the breath, breath is also changing. Existing as the thoughts are also changing. existing as waker, dreamer, sleeper, that is also changing. I am existing as I am. And last week I explained, when I recognize that I am the conscious existence, the resultant is Ananda. That Ananda expresses as the phenomena, that Ananda expresses at our level, expresses as the mind. Right now, mind is continuously oscillating between Sukha and Dukha. Once we recognize I am conscious existence, then the mind is nothing but an expression of Ananda. So contemplate, because Ananda is the Abhivyakti, Ananda is the expression. And what are we living as? We are living in this world with various references in order to gain happiness, gain Ananda. And what is the truth? Ananda is your nature. Where is this exactly opposite relationship created? It is in your mind. Aham is wanting to complete itself by interacting with idam. When aham recognizes that it is of the nature of conscious existence, then the aham thought and idam thought, which are nothing but mind. Now, once you have recognized you are of the nature, you are conscious existence in essence, then will aham seek Ananda from idam? No. Because mind is consciousness with thoughts. So you have recognized you are continuous conscious existence. So then thoughts appearing on the surface of that continuous conscious existence, they will be also of the nature of continuous conscious existence. Then I will not seek completion from the idam, from the other. See? Every thought on the ocean is nothing but the ocean, is nothing but the water. Every thought in the mind is nothing but the pure consciousness. Just as when you are touching the wave, you are touching only the water. When you are touching the thought, you are only touching the consciousness. But is that our experience? So where is the wave? Wave is existing in its own absence, meaning duality is existing in its own absence. So first come to recognize yourself as pure conscious existence. Then whatever that else is expressing, then the phenomena of the mind will continue, but it will not be to experience joy from the world. It will be to express the joy. The mind, and mind is aham idam interaction. Then both of them, aham is also an expression of Ananda and the idam is also an expression of Ananda, and the instruments which are utilized to interact between the two, they are also expressions of Ananda. That is Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma. And this conclusion cannot come about by pursuing the world. Not possible. Pursuing the many sinners. No. You have to pursue, you have to accept, pursue, accept that I am conscious existence. I have always been, I am always, and I always will be. as the essence. The past, present, future are only concepts of the mind. Before the wave, during the wave, and after the wave are only concepts for the wave. That past, present, future is not for the water. Water is everywhere. So for who is this past, present, future? It is for the I who is identified with idam, and that idam is the body. Get out of this rut. Sant, so Sant Jnaneshwar Maharaj says, after the Dvandva, the pairs of opposites has disappeared, and after Dvaita, the dependence of subject-object relationship, the relative existence has been transcended, then what remains is the one without a second. I have already explained that now. So you go, where is the relativity? Relative is in the mind. Aham idam is the relative, both coexisting. And what have you recognized? That you are beyond the relative. And when you come to know you are beyond the relative, then what happens? Then you don't see the relative as a separate phenomena. You alone are. It is all one. Just like you see the two hands, but you're feeling, what is your disposition? You don't even say both are mine. You just say I am. That's it. What is the feeling inside? Right hand also I am, left hand also I am, head also I am, feet also I am. So what will be the feeling of a person abiding in the self? Aham also I am, idam also I am. And just like you don't keep saying to yourself, I am both the hands, I am both the legs, I am the back also and the front also. No, it's just a knowingness. You may use when you are giving a lecture, but normally you don't say that way, no? So it's a thought-free knowledge within that I am pervading the entire body, isn't it? All opposites are in me or are mine at this moment, are mine. So same way, when we are transcended the duality, from there the phenomena, when it comes back again, then I am pervading both, aham also and idam also. उसके बाद फिर मस्ती आ जाती है. There is no difference of knower known, sukha dukkha, gain loss, joy sorrow. This transcending of the Dvaita is the very basis of the whole Bhagavad Gita. Sukha dukkha samhe kritva labha labho jaya jayo tato yuddhaya yudhyasva. All opposites are taken. Sukha dukkha, labh, alabh, victory, defeat. And we are the constant principle in and through all of them. ततो युद्धाय युज्यस्व नैवं पापमवाप्स्यसि. Transcending these pairs of opposites, one gets established in pure non-dual self-existent conscious bliss. Real, absolute happiness is the discovery of one's own independent existence. The presence or absence of anything, anyone, or any situation makes no differences to such an independent existence. Anything, anyone, or any experience makes no difference to this, to your stability. In chapter 2, towards the end, the verses are on the man of steady wisdom. स्थितप्रज्ञस्य का भाषा समाधिस्तस्य केशव स्थितधि किं प्रभाषेत किमासीत् व्रजेत किम. Who is this Sthita Prajna? Who is this man of Sthita, steady, whose intellect is steadily established in the truth? Meaning, same thing, that it is clutched, it has surrendered to the truth, it is influenced by the truth. Atma Vasham Sukham, isn't it? So, what is Sthita Prajna? Whose Prajna? Prajna is your intelligence. Is controlled, is guided by the Atma Vasham. Then alone Sthita Prajna, the steady wisdom, will dawn. Then there will be no shaking in any situation, good or bad, conducive or not conducive, health and disease, hunger and thirst, heat and cold. Such a person remains ever steady. And that steadiness does not come by pursuing the world of manyness. That steadiness is our nature. That steadiness comes by recognizing that we are the independent, conscious, existing self, which is reference free. Non-specific. Thought is specific. Self is non-specific. So then the presence or absence of anything, anyone, or any situation or experience makes no difference to such an independent existence. Why? It is all inclusive. Because a wave has appeared on the ocean doesn't become less. Because the wave has merged back into the ocean doesn't become more. It continues to be the steady ocean, supporting all the appearances of wave and supporting all the dissolution of all the waves. It continues to be the same ocean. It doesn't get excited or depressed because of appearance or disappearance of the waves. Are we like that? When things go according to, because we have got this idea, I have put the efforts, I have done this, I have invested there, I have done that, I have done so much for that person, I have built my house, and I am excited that I have been a successful person. But in your Kundalini, Shanidev was sitting and he starts taking away everything. Are we able to continue to remain undisturbed? Because with every passing year, no, every passing month, your wealth is dwindling, your health is dwindling, your relationships are dwindling. Before they start doing that, you dwindle it yourself by becoming independent. Unclutch yourself from all this, then it will not affect only. Or it is only human being who expects that he is going to live continuously. Only when he goes to cremation ground he feels, one day I will also have to die. The moment he comes out of the cremation ground, again he feels he is continuous. He will never die. Isn't it? That is how we are. Change. Come to catch the phenomena and discover your independence. Catch the phenomena for what it is. That phenomena can never give you the fulfillment that you are seeking. The student, on hearing the above, can be imagined to explain, "Ha, now I have understood." Jnaneshwara Maharaj is quick to knock down that premature sense of achievement. This is for us. We thought, oh, yeah, that sounds very absolutely perfect. Yeah, that's where we have to get to. I'm there. I'm not affected by my thoughts. I'm not affected. I'm unclutched. I'm a sannyasi. He says, "Vari ekapane ganize, te ganite nasi duje, manauni he na ganize, aise eka." He says, if it is referred to as one by someone, then that person who is referring is creating the two-ness. Therefore, it is such a one which is not concluded in the counting of one, two, etc. So when we say aham ekam eva dvitiya nanasti kinchana, neha nanasti kinchana, aham ekam eva dvitiya, I am one without a second. So which is this one? This is one, that one which is independent of 1, 2, 3, 4. It is the absolute one. That is the maximum the language can take you to. Then how do we come to know? By being. You come to be, then there is no language required. If someone says, with reference to what was said earlier, that he has understood what is called non-dual existence, then that person, the one who says he has understood, and the sukham which is understood has created duality. If you have understood what was told in the previous verse, your mind is saying yes. Your mind is saying what? Mind is made up of aham idam. I have understood what was heard. Again duality. Again the reference is there. Reference is what was heard, what was studied. Reference is the conviction that you allowed to happen, or you became convinced. So here he is saying that if that is the case, again that sukham, that joy will be temporary only. It will not be the permanent one, because it is with reference to something or someone. A similar warning was given by the preceptor to the student in Kenopanishad when he noticed the gleam of pride on the disciple face. You remember we just completed the Kenopanishad when the Tadeva Brahma Tvam Viddhi Yen Idam Upasate. So when the student said, I know it, yes, I got it. The teacher says, the one who knows it has not known it, and the one who doesn't know it has known it. Avijanatam vijanatam gaya tha na. So similar thought is presented here by Jnaneshwar Maharaj. It's a warning that if you think you know, you have not known. If you don't know, if you know without thoughts, then you really know. So don't jump to conclusion. Yes, I have worked it out. Thank you. There is no one to say thank you to. If you think I know well, I think what you think you know needs to be examined again. And that is when that student went into the corner and started contemplating and said, I know, but it is not that I don't know. I can't say that I know it very well, but I can't say that I don't know it either. So a non-conclusive language of contradiction was utilized. That is the only way out. This contradictory language is only available in the Upanishads, in the Sanatana Dharma. Otherwise, you follow this God. If you don't, you will go to hell. Then go converting everyone. In Sanatana Dharma, in Hinduism, it is not like that. We are ready to give up Hinduism also. Why Hinduism? We are ready to give up all concepts, ideas, thoughts. We are not afraid of anything. Because conceptualization of the truth is a persistent pitfall on the path of every seeker, and concepts are born only in duality. Self is not a concept. Concepts are because of the self. Again, same thing. I think, therefore I am, or I am, therefore thinking happens. Thinking is concepts. And our mind can only work in concepts. Past, present, future are concept. Waking, dream, deep sleep are concepts. Husband, wife, brother, I am a mother, I am a father. These are all concepts. Everything is conceptual for us. Whatever is relative is only conceptual. That on which the relative is appearing, that is not a concept. So in essence, you are not a concept. So this obsession with I have to understand, get out of it. Understanding or no understanding does not matter. You be the one who's illuminating both understanding and not understanding. You be the self which is illuminating both the joys and the sorrows. Because joy, in opposition to sorrow, both joy is a concept, sorrow is a concept. Day is a concept, night is a concept. Presence is a concept, absence is a concept. Concepts are always with reference to someone or something. Self is not a concept. Concepts are born through conditionings and limitations. Self is not a concept because it is independent of conditioning and limitations. And that I am. I am free of time. That very moment, you are free from the concept I was born and I will be dying. Free from the concept of conditioning of space. Immediately you become independent. I am so tall, I am so fat, I am so healthy, I am so this, I am so that. No. I am here, I am there. All that also will go away. Conditioning of object, that I have a form, that I am only this form, this concept also will go away. So what is happening here? We are defining the I with a reference to time. We are defining the I with a reference to space. We are defining the I with a reference to objectivity. So again, where reference has come, concept has come about. According to Nakshatra, my day or date of birth is this one. By English calendar, it is this one. So, as if one birthday was not enough, now two birthdays are being celebrated. Enough. When a child celebrates birthdays, it sounds very nice. And you want to take part also. But when your children are growing white beard and they are getting some white hair in their on the top of their skull, it's time you stop, grow up. The same, it's a very auspicious day. What happened? I was born that day. Is birth of a body an auspicious thing? It is not a auspicious thing. Otherwise, why will we be seeking liberation from the body? Birth is not auspicious. Relatively, yes. From absolute point, no. So this shift in thinking is required. And for that, we have to come to this unconceptualized self. Meaning, don't think of the self through your mind. Be the self. That is what is told here. Therefore, this one, the truth, is such that the one who counts the one, the knower, and the one, the known, do not remain separate. In a similar vein, the Lord says, Vedaischa sarvai ahameva vedyaha. By all the Vedas, I am to be known. I here does not mean as an object of knowledge. It means that one, which is one without a second. And who is one without a second? The Purushottama. Purushottama. In Sanskrit it comes Prathama Purush, Madhyama Purush and Uttama Purush. Uttama Purush is I. This I is with reference to you. It's reference to Madhyama Purush and Prathama Purush. He, she, it. But Purushottama, is there any reference for Purushottama? No, he is all that there is. The next jump from Uttama Purush, that is, once you have come to the I, what is the next jump? What is the next growth? What is the next frontier? From Uttama to Purushottama. And from Purushottama's point of view, everything is one. I can't use the word everything because all is one. Or one, no, again I am making the mistake. Not all is one, one alone. One alone. Because if I say all, everything, then I am giving validity to the manyness. And that Purushottam will be with reference to manyness. But when one alone, then there is no reference. It's as it is. There are two types of ones. Now he is telling you what is one at the relative and one at the absolute. There are two types of ones. One that is followed by two. Such a one is liable to be divided by two. So if you accept I am the one, but the moment in the meditation, in the samadhi, I am the one. But the moment eyes open, immediately you become father, brother, daughter, all the roles you start playing. So two. The moment eyes open, oh, I don't want to open my eyes, I want to go back to being the one. Why? You accepted that there is other. You are disturbed by the other. That's why you want to again go back to meditation and be the one. So we are not talking about that one who is running away from the two, from the other. The second one is that which cannot be followed by two or divided by two. The second one is that which cannot be followed by two. Because there is no otherness, so how can it be followed by two? It cannot be cut by the other also. What does it say? नैनं छिन्दन्ति शस्त्राणि नैनं दहति पावकः न चैनं क्लेदयन्तः न चैनं क्लेदयन्त्यापो न शोषयति मारुतः. That is the one. Because if there is an acceptance of otherness, if there is an acceptance of two, then only you can be disturbed, then only you agitation will come, then only reaction will happen, then only fear of death will be there, then only the feeling that I am great, I am low, I am happy, unhappy, all this will come only if there is the other, if there is a second. Second meaning, if only there is, second will be idam. Aham is one, idam is second. But what we are talking about? We are talking about that one which is reference free. There is no second, there is no idam for him. He is all that there is. That this one is called infinite. All mathematics fail with reference to the infinite. We use the word infinite, we talk about infinite, we nod our head when we use the word infinite as if we have understood. What have we understood? Even science has not understood what infinite is, and we are nodding. Because somewhere deep in our heart, we know we are the infinite. That's why that nodding is happening. See? Somewhere deep inside we know we are other than the waker, dreamer, sleeper. That's why the answer comes out, yes, I understand. Because that is our nature. It doesn't require to be understood. Because mind can never understand that which is beyond its scope of understanding. Mind only works in duality, with references, with concepts. But this absolute one, with no second to follow, it is beyond the scope of the mind, beyond the mind's comprehension. Aprapya manasa saha. Mind cannot comprehend it. That is the one that is described as non-dual, infinite experience, where there is no trace of duality of the knower and the known. There is no trace of duality of aham and idam. So, expose yourself to this again and again and again. Remain Atma Vasham. Not remain Sarvam Vasham. The moment a child's phone call comes, ears are listening the satsang, but here the SMS reply is going on. This is called Sarvam Paravasham Dukkham. This is how you put it into practice. We are not saying you are aware, SMS has come. Don't reply, remain focused. In 1 second, it should be thrown out of your mind. Resist the urge to check, because you know it is your child's. What will be so important that they are calling this time? No, get it out after the satsang. This is paravasham, paravasham dukkham. What is happening? If we do not resist it, we'll continue to reinforce those feelings, and we'll never be able to go beyond the relative. Somewhere you have to begin. Consciously, that is. Unconsciously, it's happening every day at night. But consciously, satsang is a place at least where you can consciously exercise this. There also we are allowing it to be corrupted. Think. We can only say think, because in the end, as our Kena Upanishad, the teacher said, I had told you what I had to tell you, now it's up to you what you do with it. I can't make you understand, I can't teach you, we can only teach you this much. Having denied even the possibility of knowing the truth, Jnaneshwar Maharaj goes even further to deny even the experience of the experiencer. When we use this mudra, the Jnana mudra, he is the experiencer. Before he was identified with the idam, now he is the witness of the idam, now he is one with himself. Does not mean that this is an experience. This is an experience, this is an experience, but this is not an experience. It is an experienceless experience. So when we ask, who am I? When you come to the I, when I, the contemplator, the I, the seeker, and the object of seeking is also the I, and the result is not an experience. Result is not an experience. I am the knower, body is the known. This body also is mine only, but here is an experience. This is my hand, this is my leg, this is my nose. Can you say this is my eye? Not this I. I thought, this is my I thought. No, you can't say that. So there is no, goes even further to deny even the experience of the experiencer. Experiencer, when we are contemplating on who am I, the experiencer, the knower, and what are we contemplating on the knower for? We are contemplating on the knower and want to know the knower. Meaning, the contemplator, I am the contemplator, and I want to know I as the known. When the knower and the known merge, there is no experience possible. Experience is possible where there is duality. Here there is no duality, so no experience. He just does not permit any possibility of support to hold on to, as it only perpetuates the maintenance of individuality and duality. Contemplation of the knower does not lead to any experience, meaning there is no duality, there is no individuality left as a residue. When we see, hear, touch, feel, taste, think, conceptualize, there is always a residue. The residue of memory. I am seeing Nagaraj. Immediately, Nagaraj was there today in the satsang. Usha is there, Ravi is there, Suruj is there, all of you are there. I am there because I am seeing myself also, bigger than you all. The body is there. This is a residue. Knowing of something as other is a residue. That residue is a thought, a concept, an experience. When I comes to know I, there is no residue. It's an experience-less experience. It's a knowing-less knowing. There's no becoming here. I have become a speaker. I am speaking to myself, stupid fellow. I have become a seer. Become a seer. I am seeing you all. But when I comes to know I, there is no becoming. I have not become a knower of myself then. Can't say that. But whole life we were saying, I have to know myself, I have to know myself, I have to know myself. And when we come to know myself, we say, I don't know. I cannot say that I know or I don't know. Remember the words of Upanishad, Kena Upanishad. This is the maja. If the disposition in us is to have an experience of the self, then many imaginations of self will come in the mind. I think I am there. I think that was wonderful. That was so sublime. That was so divine. You can be taken for a big long ride. So don't look for an experience of the self. It's the most normal, commoner than the commonest, without any specifications, without any reference, without any experience, that type of state, that is who you are. But if we keep searching for the self, contemplating on the self, expecting an experience in return, because that's how we have interacted with the world. If I wake up in the morning and I don't see the room, you will go crazy, you will be afraid, your heart will start beating very loudly. Where am I then? See? Because you are used to an experience of your room when you wake up. You are used to the experience of the world. So that habit of determining a particular experience, then that same habit is cut pasted on the I also. Who am I? I need to have an experience of the self. We have to drop that. And therefore this verse was a precaution given to the student. Who is the student? Our mind. Here Jnaneshwar Maharaj is speaking to his own mind. The entire thing is only an instruction to his mind only. Sant Jnaneshwar Maharaj in the following OV says, Sukha to ni neghane, te sukhiye sukhe tene, he sukha matra chima kone, anubhavave. One may have the experience of bliss, thus keeping the bliss and its experience are separate, But that which is bliss itself, how can there be an experience of bliss? Hmm? You can have people when they are if you start chanting the name of the Lord, Vaikhari Madhyama Pashyanti Para, as the focus increases, your abidance in the mantra becomes steady, you feel waves of bliss and ecstasy arising in the body, in the mind. Well, in the mind, not in the body, in the mind, but expressing through the body. Waves after waves after waves. So one may have experience of bliss. This is what the bliss is. You can have bliss by eating a gulab jamun. You can have a bliss by embracing your beloved. You can have experience bliss by thinking of your dear one. Just thinking is enough. A devotee thinks of his beloved Lord and he experiences the bliss. But it's an experience which comes and goes, thus keeping the bliss and its experiencer separate. So the experience is, I experienced bliss and now I'm not experiencing bliss. I was in ecstasy but now I'm not in ecstasy. But that which is bliss itself, but the self that is which is of the nature of bliss, how can there be an experience of bliss? When experiencer in essence is of the nature of bliss itself, then there is no two. If there is no two, then how will an experience precipitate? See? When someone is sitting comfortably under the shade of a tree and a second person comes who is tired and weary after a long trek in the sun and expresses relief and pleasure on reaching the shade, the first person will not be able to appreciate it. Those who are always on the hill station cannot understand why outsiders are excited about their place. And it's true, we have traveled, so we go to Sydney, go to Hobart, go to Brisbane. We are invited to such big houses. Have been to Himalayas, have been to Kailash, have been to Char Dham, all these. And when you go there, you feel, wow, what a wonderful, I think I should build a kutia here and stay here for permanently. Yesterday, someone is on L plate. She says, Swamiji, I want to drive. Can you come with me? So went for a 1 hour drive. So went to Listerfield where we have our retreat. I told her, I'll show you a beautiful place 10 minutes away from our house. And went to that Listerfield road. It's all farms, huge farms, all greenery, cows, this. She says, it's so close to our place. I said, now you have a car, you can travel. And when we go to the retreat, oh, it's so beautiful, it's so wonderful. We should have a place like this of our own. Immediately want to own it. Immediately want to make it a permanent one. When you ask the monks who are living in that monastery, we only go there for 3 days or 6 days, 7 days and come back. And we are all excited. Yahoo, maja aega. In the farm and cows, sheep and everything. Ask the monks. They are complaining. Because such a huge block of land, they have to keep mowing the grass. They have to keep fixing the fences. They have to keep clearing the dead wood. They have to make sure the septic tanks are clean. They have to, after every group goes, they have to make sure that all the accommodation is again clean and tidy. They have to continuously keep thinking about if the people who have come have not taken away their utensils. Huh? So for them it is not a novelty. For those who come temporarily, for them it is novelty. Same thing in, though you ask the people who are living in Badrinath, for them it is not novelty. But we who go for 2-3 days there and then come back, for us it is novelty. See? Those who are always on the hill station cannot understand why outsiders are excited about their place. So the one who is rested doesn't understand the relief that a person gets when he comes under the tree and rests in the shade away from the sun. Why? He's already sitting there. This thought is echoed here when one comes into a condition called Sukham from a condition which was dubbed as Dukkham. Then a relative experience of happiness is possible because it is a state where the experience of happiness and the experience of happiness are kept apart. In that state, which is pure bliss itself, how can there be an experiencer experiencing an experience of bliss? Not possible. Not possible. Because there is no coming and going. There is no uniting with an experience and ununiting from an experience. You are continuously coming into waking and going out of waking, coming into dream and going out of dream, coming into sleep and going out of sleep. It's an experience. But are you coming into the self and going out of the self? Huh? No, I am always the self. No experience possible. Then what is it that I am experiencing? That is the relative self. That is the one which we are asking you to drop. Recognize that there is nothing called relative. There is only the absolute one. The relative one seeks bliss in opposition to blisters, which is dukkham. And this is what it has been doing throughout its life. But we have to recognize that we are that bliss. We are not that bliss, we are of the nature of bliss. And that bliss is that one which is not followed by two. Because there is no experience there possible. Because there is no reference point. Because there is no otherness. There are no differences of knower and known. Aham and idam. In this way, Jnaneshwar Maharaj is thoroughly entertaining us. He is going to make sure that by the end of this book, if not on every page, we come to abide in ourselves. At least by the end of the book, end of the chapter. Then नहीं हुआ, ये chapter भी चला गया, चलो next chapter. So thrilling. How 1.5 hours goes, पता ही नहीं चलता. And you don't get tired also talking about this because you are talking about the self alone. If the attention is on the self, it's yeah, you are only saying yes, yes, yes inside. There is no contradictions there. Chalo, enjoy. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Sit quietly for a moment.